Holy crap.
People persist in doubting the evidence.
Don't run and hide. Don't be afraid. Don't turn away any longer. The truth will set you free.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
We're turning all of our antennas towards Jimmy Church.
And now, your host, the captain of conspiracy, the prince of paranormal. This ain't your daddy's radio network show. This is Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Happy Monday. How are you? Happy Monday to everybody. Today is Monday. It's the Monday edition. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. That's right. Today's Monday, March 2nd. 61 days into the new year. 304 days left. As always, we are live from the truthfunders.com studios in Burbank, California. Soggy, wet, rainy Burbank. Truth Funders. Do you have a book, an expedition, an invention, or paranormal documentary you need to get funded? Go to truthfunders.com. Truth Funders, the number one source of backing your project into the fringe. The link is right there at jimmychurchradio.com. Simple. Click on it. Go. Get it done. Truth Funders. Amazing. Welcome to everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR and the Game Changer Network. I am your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church. A big, proud salute to the men and women in uniform all around the world, fighting the good fight for us, defending our right to freedom of speech. For without them, there is no me, there is no you, there is no us, and you could not hear me right now. I really, really need you to think about that. Big stuff going down here at Fade to Black. We'll be making that announcement momentarily. Oh, the suspense. I know a secret. I know a secret. All right. Let's go. I love Mondays. You know this. Tonight on the show, Buff Parry will be with us. One of his documentaries I have personally watched 10 times. Buff Parry. Tonight, it's all on tonight. Da Vinci, Lost Civilizations, Egypt, Gobekli Tepe. Oh, yeah. Buff Parry. So excited. And when you have somebody like Buff on that's so smart, you know, and I'm not, I just want to listen. I'm a sponge. Buff is one of the smartest guys that I know. Yes, he is smart. Faders.org. We missed Fader Cinema this weekend. Our apologies. Personal stuff with the family, and but we've gotten it out of the way. So I'll be joining you guys in Fader Cinema this weekend. All right. I think you guys did Tesla this past weekend. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there, but I will be there this Saturday. Faders.org, Fader Cinema. Become a Fader today. Faders.org. It's free. It's fun. It makes you smart. Go and get yourself your blog going on. A couple of tweets right before the show. Follow us on Twitter, by the way, at JChurchRadio. I need the code. Hey, becoming a Fader not, you got to earn that. Not just, you've got to earn it. You've got to go. You got to get vetted. And we got to make sure you're cool. Oh, yeah, because once you're a Fader Knight, you're in the family. And it's just like it's just like The Godfather. I keep trying to. What's the line? I keep trying to leave. They keep pulling me back in. Studio Dome SD1 speaker, Bluetooth, voice activated. Promo still going on for all of you Fader Knots. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome link. It's right there. It's a big banner. Enter the promo code Jimmy. You get $40 off. It's $99.99. You get it for $59.99 and free shipping. That's the Fader Knot special. Ziggy was just tweeting right before the show. Man, I'm listening to the show, man. On my SD1. I'm listening to some Space Boy. Yeah, man. Go get yourself an SD1. They are amazing. Like always, when I talk about it, I have to hold it in my hand. I'm holding it right now. It is just incredible. It is a weapon. All right, Studio Dome SD1, $40 off. Enter the promo code Jimmy. Go do it. Contact in the Desert, the contest, May 29th through the 31st, Joshua Tree, California. May 29th through the 31st, everybody's going to be there. You want to be there. We did 5 winners last week. We're going to do another 5 this Thursday. I got to tell you, George Norrie, Tsoukalos, Eric Von Daniken, Richard Dolan, Linda Moulton Howe, John Anthony West. I can go on and on and on and on. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click and enter. We're going to announce 5 more winners this Thursday. I can't announce your name if you don't enter. Let's go to jimmychurchradio.com, click. It's very simple. It's right there. Can't make it any easier. We're trying to get all the winners done and out of the way so everybody can make those travel plans. But trust me on this. You're going to want to come and hang out with us. All right, let's get this show cracking. We got a lot of stuff to do tonight. Big announcement coming in 3 minutes. 3 minutes. So, for 3 minutes, I'm going to do my birthday list. Love it. Today, Coldplay frontman Chris Martin, 38 years old. I'll admit it. I likes me some Coldplay. I do. I like the studio Coldplay. The live Coldplay isn't as good as the studio Coldplay. Nonetheless, Coldplay. Chris Martin, 38 years old. I looked up his wealth today, by the way. My eyeballs about popped out of my head. Also, today, actor Daniel Craig is 47. Oh, yeah, he makes the list. James Bond, Casino Royale, Skyfall. Last year, 2 years ago, was that 2012? Which became the 8th highest grossing film in history. Also today, John Bon Jovi, 53 years old. I saw Bon Jovi once opening for, you know who Bon Jovi opened for, are you ready for this? Are you sitting down? They opened for Rat. Yeah, man. How long ago was that, you ask? Yeah, watch John Bon Jovi open for Rat at Irvine Meadows Amphitheater. I think it's called the Verizon now, today. All right, today, our dead guy's birthdays today. Karen Carpenter, 1950 to 1983. One of the greatest, if not one of the greatest vocalists of all time. And I had posted up on Facebook, somebody should go and find this, some tracks, naked tracks of Karen Carpenter singing without any effects. Well, back then they didn't have any. And go and listen to those. And I just got to say, Beyonce, Lady Gaga, all that, whatever, whoever you think you are a singer today, go listen to that. Go to school. Karen Carpenter, 1950, 1983. Also today, happy birthday to Lou Reed, 1942 to 2013. Yeah, sad. And also today, guitarist Rory Gallagher. Rory Gallagher, man. 1948 to 1995. Oh, I might as well say it now. That opening track, the intermission music tonight, was me. Yeah, on my 1958 white Stratocaster. yeah, that was a fun track to do. And if you listen to that track in the background, I did, man. I ripped it off, man. I pulled some Elvis. That's Elvis in the background. I don't know what I was doing, but yeah. So that was me trying to be a blues player. Had a lot of fun, by the way, doing that. You know what? I got a call coming in. I'm going to grab this call. Let me see. Who's this call? Who's on the line?
This is the man.
Everybody say hi to Race Hobbs. This is Race Hobbs, head cook, chief bottle washer at KGRA.
That's it.
Hey, Race, what do you, on your business card, when you flip a business card to people, what does it actually say?
Oh, it has the big chair on it.
I'm calling you out.
Chair. The big chair.
All
How
right.
you doing, Jimmy?
I'm doing good, Race. All right, let's do it. We haven't. This isn't. We didn't prep anything formally for this, but I thought, you know what? Let's wing it. Let's let two pros go at it and see what happens live on the air. But the big announcement. I want everybody to sit down and relax and absorb this and chew on this. This Monday, March 9th, KGRA and Fade to Black will start their quest to take over the world. And,
That's it.
And I want to say, Race, and I'll let you speak in 2 seconds. I'll say this, that Race and I and everybody over at KGRA and everybody here at Fade to Black, we worked really, really hard, nearly 24 hours a day for the last, I don't know, month or so, I would say, Race. And and we finally got it all done. So this Monday, I can't believe it. I'm almost nervous. And but that's it. And I'm going over to join KGRA and the amazing family that they have over there. And I'm excited. And like I said, the quest is starting to take over the world.
Jimmy, I have to first off thank you and your team for the amazing opportunity to work with you guys and the fabulous program that you guys have worked so hard to build. It's a wonderful honor to have you come into the KGRA family, and everybody here, and I mean everybody, is super stoked. And, I was so tickled to be able to announce this to the family, once we got this hammered out. And, we are really, really, really geared toward taking this to the next level. I'm not talking about raising the bar up just a notch. We're going to raise that son of a bitch 5 notches. We're going to the stratosphere with this deal. With Jimmy Church anchoring KGRA weeknights, we are unstoppable.
And the thing is, and thank you for that, Race, but, everything is mutually, it comes from both sides of the fence, and we both know that, and we both respect each other. But I'll say this. When I first put my eyes on KGRA a couple of years ago, and I went and started listening to all of the shows there, I thought to myself, this is where I want to be. It's a really funny thing how life works. It really is. And I thought
it absolutely is.
Yeah. And I'm looking at everybody that's there, and I'm listening to all of the shows. And you heard me tell Chase the other day, I was reminding her of some older shows that I had listened to of her. And I thought, not only professional, but just well done. I mean, just for this circle that we are dealing with every day, paranormal and ufology and all those fringe things that we're all questing for answers to. KGRA always did it right, and I aspired, and that was the bar that I always held myself to, was the production and everything that you guys did over there. And it's just funny how life works. And now here we are partnering up together, and I'm serious. I want to say some other things that are, the way you and I talk off in the air, but I'm excited, man. I am excited.
I know. Super stoked is the only way that I can put it. All of us truly are. It's an alliance, Jimmy. It's an alliance. It's a partnership. The massive work and following and the fans that you have joined with the KGRA family and fans that we have. It's truly, this is a big deal. This is a big deal, Jimmy, and it's really going to take a while for it to sink in. It really is.
Well, now, and I told you earlier today, and I'm up against a break here, Race. I know you'll respect that, but I'll say this. You're going to be broadcasting from Contact in the Desert now, whether you like it or not.
Oh, and I am so looking forward to it, man. Absolutely. To have you guys out on the West Coast, we've got Johansson from the Q Science Project just south of you guys, partnering up with you guys out there and getting that coverage on the West Coast. Yeah, I really look forward to that as well. Live and on location is something the KGRA has prided itself on for many years now. And now with you and through you and your amazing team, we'll be able to expand out west in the best way possible. Want to say hi, shout out to all the Fadernauts. I'm a Fadernaut now. Les, everybody, I love all of you. I look forward to working with you guys as well. And Jimmy, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. It's really all the best on our part. We're lucky to have you guys in the family now.
Thank you so much, Race. And I'll say this, after all the work we put in over the last month, that's nothing. The real work starts now. So here we
That's
go.
Right.
All right, man.
That's right. Roll them sleeves up, baby, because it's time to get grinding.
That's what I'm talking about. Thank you so much, Race.
Thank you, Jimmy.
I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Peace, brother.
Peace. Race Hobbs, KGRA. So there's your announcement. Monday, March 9th. Our new flagship station is KGRA and the KGRA family. We are now proud. The family, the Fadernaut family, KGRA, we are now joined at the hips. With that, I'm just going to say this is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network. And on Monday, March 9th, KGRA taking over the world. Oh, yeah. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Come back with the news that you know nothing about. This is Fade to Black. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil three-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Fade to Black, the Monday edition. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Welcome to everybody listening live all around the world, all across the United States. This is Bespoke Radio for the Masses on the Game Changer Network. On Monday, March 9th, KGRA. Oh, man. It's not called the Global Radio Alliance for nothing. Thank you, Race, and everybody over at KGRA. Dolan's live right now. I feel like phone bombing his show. We'll leave him alone tonight. All right, let's get to the news that you know nothing about. I don't know if you heard this one. This is pretty amazing, actually. Actor Leonard Nimoy, Spock, died last week. But in Canada, he lives on. Oh, yeah. The Canadians have their own tribute to Nimoy. And I posted this today on Facebook. Well, I didn't. Somebody else did. But, on the jimmychurchradio.com page. In other words, Canadians are sketching a Spock-style bowl haircut with sideburns over Sir Wilfrid Laurier, who was the Prime Minister of Canada from 1896 to 1911. His face is on the $5 bill. That's the lowest denomination, by the way, that the Canadians have. They're smart. They don't waste paper up there. Plus, everything's expensive. But $5 bill. You have to look at. The guy looks just like Spock. And you just touch up his hair a little bit, give him them Spock eyebrows. Spock lives on in Canada. Go to jimmychurchradio.com over on Facebook and check it out. It's pretty amazing. The Islamic State has reportedly declared war on Twitter, issuing a threat against its co-founder and employees. Yes. I'm not kidding. They tweeted out, "Your virtual war on us will cause a real war on you." BuzzFeed cites an online post addressed to Twitter co-founder Jack Dorsey, at the Jack Dorsey, which was shared on an anonymous website, Pastebin. And I'm quoting here, "You started this failed war. We told you from the beginning it's not your war, but you didn't get it and kept closing our accounts on Twitter. But we always come back. But when our lions come and take your breath, you will never come back to life." Twitter has confirmed to several news outlets, including BuzzFeed and CNBC, that the company's security team, along with law enforcement officials, are looking into the veracity of the threat. Twitter has blocked various ISIL and ISIS accounts in the past, as the firm's terms of service ban all users who promote direct, specific threats of violence against others. Now, Jack is a follower of mine. Yes, he is. He doesn't follow too many people. I know Jack. Jack's a cool dude. And Twitter was never meant for this kind of stuff. It's amazing how they're just turning it back around on Jack. At Jack. Unbelievable. I don't think we've heard the end of this. White House grounds were breached again overnight, twice, in fact. This time, however, Secret Service police arrested two men who attempted to gain access to the executive mansion before they were able to get very far. One person was arrested around 11:30 p.m. on Sunday after climbing over a bicycle rack set up outside the White House's main fence and charged with unlawful entry. At about 6:45 a.m. this morning, a second person was stopped after trying to enter the grounds through a White House gate as a construction worker was exiting through the security checkpoint. The man became violent and was arrested. The White House was briefly locked down after both incidents as part of Secret Service protocol, Reuters reported today. On the morning of March 20th, 2015, a solar eclipse will pass over all of Europe, visible from Turkey to Greenland. A decade ago, that probably wouldn't have mattered, as we know, because that was before the influx of solar power. But now, 3% of Europe's electricity grid comes from solar power, making the March event a proving ground to see how it's going to affect solar energy feeding the grid. In the span of 2 hours, 35,000 megawatts of electricity will fade and then return. To put that in perspective, a typical coal plant in the United States generates about 600 megawatts. The European Network of Transmission System Operators for Electricity, it's called ENSO-E, calls the eclipse an unprecedented test for Europe's electricity system. Going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Researchers in China have spotted a supermassive black hole, which they say is 12 billion times more massive than the sun and formed around 900 million years ago after the Big Bang. The black hole is larger than any of its age previously seen. The journal Nature now reports a black hole is a dense region of space that has collapsed in on itself in a way that means nothing can escape it, not even light. We know this. Releasing their findings in Nature, researchers led by teams from China's Peking University and the University of Arizona said the black hole, named SDSSJ010013.02, was 6 times larger than its biggest known contemporaries. Insane. Huge. Prices at the pump have changed. Have you noticed? Yes. They have climbed steadily for 5 weeks in a row. The national average right now for a gallon of regular gas jumped nearly 40 cents a gallon over the last 5 weeks to $2.43 a gallon. That's the longest streak of increases for about 2 years, pushing an average price back above $2 a gallon in all 50 states. In January, more than half of the United States gas stations were selling gas for less than $2 a gallon. I never saw it, by the way. The national average stood at $2.03 a gallon. I think the best we did out here, Southern California, the best I did, Costco, I think it got down to about I'm going to say $2.28. Never saw under $2 a gallon gas here. I would have had a heart attack. Despite the price increase, drivers are still saving money at the pump. Prices are currently 90 cents a gallon below where they were in September 2014. The U.S. Energy Information Administration forecasts that the typical American household is going to save about $700 this year on gas. The head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog said today that Iran still had not handed over key information to his staff and that his body's investigation into Iran's atomic program could not continue indefinitely. I'm quoting here. He said, Iran has yet to provide explanations that enable the agency to clarify 2 outstanding practical measures. That's right. The 2 measures relating to alleged explosive tests and other measures that might have been used for bomb research should have been addressed by Iran last August. The agency is not in a position to provide credible assurance about the absence of undeclared nuclear material and that activities in Iran, and therefore to conclude that all nuclear material in Iran is in peaceful activities. Scary. The West has related concerns that Iran wants to develop a nuclear warhead. We all know this. Tehran says no, it's all entirely peaceful. Then we got Netanyahu doing his speech today. Did you guys all cop a view of that one? What's this, Dandy? It made it to $1.89. Gas is $2.10 right now. $1.68. Wow, as cheap as I got here in Arkansas. That's from Race Hobbs. He's now fully in the sandbox. Yeah, I mean, we never saw it that cheap. It never got there. It just never quite did. We don't enjoy what you enjoy when it comes to gas prices here in Southern California. We are the last. But you know what? Everything's more expensive here. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network. March 9th, KGRA and Game Changer. You know, it's all good. Taking over the world. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. When I come back, Buff Parry will join us tomorrow. Linda Moulton Howe Wednesday, Nick Pope. And Thursday, we got a 2-for special, Fader Night and Dr. Robert Davis. I'll be back with Buff Parry right after this. Stay with us.
Hello, you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
My name is Nick Dominguez. Hi, I'm Rex Dominguez, and I listen to jimmychurchradio.com. Jimmy is your preacher. Amen. This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're of the Honey Brothers. Yes. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. And you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
KJCR. JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Stay with us, Buff. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, Buff Parry. Tomorrow night, Linda Moulton Howe. Wednesday, Nick Pope. Thursday night, 2-for special. Dr. Robert Davis will be joining us. This is Fade to Black. So excited to have Buff with us on the show tonight. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. If you have any questions for myself or Mr. Parry, you can hashtag F2BQ. That's Fade to Black questions. Simple enough. You can also email me, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Twitter's the way to go. I see it in real time. If you email, that goes through the producers here. So you always got to remember, you got to make it smart. You got to make it worthy of Mr. Buff Parry. I am ready. Let's get this cracking. Buff Parry studied at San Jose State University, Carleton University in Ottawa, and taught in 4 faculties at the University of Regina. Mr. Parry still occasionally teaches at the University of Alberta and at St. Stephen's College, and guest lectures at universities, museums, and other venues around the world. Buff is known for his work on Secret Mysteries of America's Beginnings, Volume 2, Riddles and Stone, The Secret Architecture of Washington, D.C., Secret Mysteries of America's Beginnings, Volume 3, Eye of the Phoenix, Secrets of the Dollar Bill, Secrets of the Mysteries of America's Beginnings, Volume 1, The New Atlantis, and my favorite, Lapis Exilis, The Stone of Destiny, which right now, Buff, I don't know if you know this, but you've got like almost 2 million views of that video on YouTube.
I know. And I don't normally, monitor these things, but when I heard that, I started. and now I look at my YouTube channel, not daily, but every couple of days to see if it's in competition with Lapis Exilis. Not yet. But if all your listeners tune in, then I will be.
Welcome to the program. Tonight, this is what's really cool with you, Buff, is Leonardo da Vinci, of course, Gobekli Tepe, Egypt, the Holy Grail, the pillow stone. There are so many different areas to go into. We could pick any one of these and spend 2 or 3 hours right there. And I'm excited about that because everybody knows, all the Fadernauts out there listening right now, know that these are my 4 favorite subjects. They know.
Well, here's something for you. If we pivot from Gobekli Tepe, we can cover all 4 of those.
Yeah, isn't that right? Isn't that crazy? And it's heading so quickly in that direction that I don't think there's any stopping it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before we get started, for all of the new listeners out there, this is what we do. This is 2 friends sitting on my couch in my living room, drinking whatever, having a conversation. And where we start is where we start. Where we end is where we end. I have no questions prepared in front of me. These are my favorite subjects, and of course yours too, Buff. But so I'm ready. Are you ready? You ready to?
I've got Leonardo right in front of me. Not in the flesh, but in text. His own his own writings concerning that very area of Gobekli Tepe.
Oh, I cannot wait. And you and I, when we were talking earlier this week, when I had said, you know what, save it. I don't want to know. Save it. Save it for the show, because I want to learn with everybody else. I just want to have my mind blown with everybody else, and they can tell. Buff, when I stop talking, they know. I've just been, it's like an ice pick in the middle of the forehead, and I'm really looking forward to those moments tonight. First, let me go here. You're very educated, and by the way, you did notice that I did say Regina. That I hope you were impressed.
I'm very impressed.
Okay, I just
There are other ways to pronounce that.
Well,
that particular city.
Yeah. The first time that I was there, and I was saying Regina, right? And obviously they know they've got a virgin, a rookie coming into town when they hear that. And when somebody moves to Southern California, there's a famous street here. It's called Sepulveda Boulevard. But you've got somebody that just moved here when they go, oh, Sepulveda. Right? And so out of the gate. And it's the same thing with Regina. So I fly into Regina and I say Regina a couple of times, and I get the dirty look. Not a dirty look, but the look of correction. And I was like, really, Regina? And everybody they joke about it. Yes, it rhymes with, and they're so used to it up there. But when you hear somebody say Regina, somebody's either been there or they know what they're talking about.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you ever do talk with the new owners of the part of Oak Island where you find the money pit, be sure and pronounce their last name correctly, because it's Legina.
Yes. Yes.
No.
No.
Or Lagina or Lagina. I mean, it just depends on whether you have a Southern Italian, accent and dialect phonologically or not. So I've done all four of those with them, and it works. They never correct you. They're a neat couple of brothers, those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be able to tie Gobekli Tepe into Oak Island here soon enough, too, I think.
I'm absolutely certain that there's a way to do that.
I'm waiting. The whole Knights Templar thing and Oak Island makes so much sense. It's almost, I just want to say it's almost stupid. It makes so much sense. I just hope that we finally get some type of closure at Oak Island, whatever it is. I mean, the amount of guys that have gone there, and how many six deaths over the years, and it's been tragic. And you've seen families and money and everything just literally the money pit, just flying away without any closure at all. And I just want to, when I first started researching Oak Island, not to get off onto some crazy segue here, but back in the mid 90s, I had heard from a friend about Oak Island, and I jumped on the net. I found one singular tiny website about it. There was nothing out there. There was nowhere to go when you were trying to research Oak Island. Now it's turned into this big phenomenon, but back then I was curious, and I couldn't find anything out about Oak Island. Now there seems to be a lot of information out there.
Well, and there always was, depending on how deep you plunged into archives and the history of the area. FDR, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, was there several times, and I've got all of his letters concerning Oak Island, not the originals, of course, but a full copy set, and it's quite intriguing. He was struggling in 1939. He was struggling with whether or not he should take a boat up to Oak Island or get on with, the European problems of the day. I mean, really, those problems were enormous. And he was so interested in Oak Island that he had to kind of juggle around in his mind what is really more important. And when you consider that, and you consider what he knew and what he may have been able to draw from a continuum of knowledge about that place, going all the way back to George Washington, in terms of, the presidents, you start to put some puzzle pieces together. What it was he knew that others didn't know, and had been confided, in a way that Masons are very capable of doing.
Well, and which actually goes back to my point. In 1995, 96, when I tried to find out information about Oak Island, I couldn't find anything. But actually, there was tons of stuff. I mean, there was, it goes back, hundreds of years, first off. But, I mean, it was documented, noted, expeditions, video, film, construction companies, investors, prospectors, large corporations involved, movie stars, everything was. But in 1995, that information just wasn't out there. It's crazy what we know now. I mean, yeah, absolutely. And that's my point. It's so well documented, and it's been going on for so long. But when I tried hard in 1995, and there was just that one little website with the basic tale there, that was there, and a couple of photographs. But compared to what it is today and what we know now, it's two different things.
Truly. There was a Reader's Digest article that apparently got the Lagina brothers, up and moving and deciding to, later in life, which is now, visit Oak Island, and it was for sale because the owners were in a big dispute. Blankenship and Tobias were not friendly with each other at a certain point about 10 years ago, maybe 9 years ago. And so it became available, and they purchased it and sided with Blankenship family, and that's how they got in like Flint, and they're going to it. They're doing more than anybody's ever done, and yet they're still so uncertain about it all. They've spent millions and millions of dollars in this current investigation, and they will be spending a lot more because I understand the third season is going to be up in the filming process, and script writing, I guess, but they really don't write scripts when they get in arguments, right? right for the whole public to enjoy. I'm glad that it ended up with those brothers, because there's some humor that is going on. There's serious engineering and science going on. It's very entertaining, and I'm honored to have been a part of the whole Oak Island mystery and epoch. I kind of jumped on late. It was in 2004 when the London Times did a full-page feature on my work, and they connected my work to Oak Island for reasons I still don't understand, but it turned out absolutely an accurate connection in terms of what I've now discovered about this very mysterious, huge amount of gold that was delivered from, quote, a French source, end quote, and at that time it was French, in 1746, delivered to the Jacobites in Scotland to kick off the throne, the usurpers, as they were understood then, and these were people called the Hanoverians, the King's George that America or the colonies fought against, and so on. They took the throne from James II, and so the long story short, the gold that was I'm certain was kept at Oak Island was delivered just a matter of a week or so after the Jacobites lost the Battle of Culloden in Scotland, and they really needed that gold and that money badly to pay for arms and just wars are expensive. So the gold managed to get, and I've now figured out who brought it, who was the admiral of the French fleet. It's all sound and And it was part of the decipherment of that Shepherd's Monument in England that I did, that you saw in Lapis Exilis, what the monument was in honor of, and it was in honor of an artifact that was in the same fleet, cargo fleet, that was delivering the gold.
When the first time that I saw the Shepherd's Monument, and I listened and watched you do your explanation of it, it was like hidden in plain sight. It was obvious. Everything on there was just so obvious. I don't want to do a weird thing into the Shepherd's Monument so quickly here, but why didn't anybody see that before? Every single piece of not only its ties in with Renaissance painting and so, but also the symbology that's there, the Roman numerals that are there, that are totally displaced and sitting out by themselves. They only make sense when you take it literally. Why didn't anybody figure that out before? The monument's sitting right there in the yard.
Because they didn't take it literally. Charles Darwin spent weeks, in front of that monument trying to figure it out. And he's a famous code cracker after all. The theory of evolution is a code,
sure,
in effect, and he sure cracked that one open. Charles Dickens, the great novelist, he tried his hand at it. And interestingly, I think most interesting of all of the people or groups that tried to crack that code are the people from Bletchley Park. The movie The Imitation Game that is based on the Enigma code cracking activity that probably shortened the Second World War by about 2 or 3 years. The survivors, the people still alive from that period, tried it. They couldn't crack the code. It was tried even during the period of, when Bletchley Park was at its peak, and no one there could break the code because everyone had the wrong idea about codes generally. There are so many kinds of codes, and this was not a binary code or the kind of code that the Enigma code was based on, and then the device that was created by Alan Turing to counter the Enigma machine or the Enigma code. All of that is a different kind of code manufacturing and code detection and code breaking series of activities. And when I first read the challenge, and it was put forward by the director of Bletchley Park at the time, which was in 2004, what I read was this code could consist of ancient languages. It could consist of, all kinds of different things that are not normally thought of as being in a code, or as being codes. And then when you slip over to Leonardo da Vinci and you read his notebooks, and I'll go over one of those codes with you because it has to do with what he named the site right next to where Gobekli Tepe is, and he named it in code. And I cracked the code, and the greatest expert in the world on Leonardo da Vinci, who received the Congressional Merit of Achievement years back for being the greatest expert on Leonardo da Vinci. His name is Dr. Carlo Pedretti, and he's completely, if I can put it this way, approved of my code breaking of Leonardo's ciphers that he wrote. Leonardo also wrote music in cipher, and this is not the kind of popular notion today that a couple of code breakers have come up with, that if you look at the Last Supper a certain way, they're actually notes in the hands of the people at the Last Supper table, or the hands and arms are positioned in a way that if you follow it through, you can play music to reading those positions of the hands and arms. That's gobbledygook. It's nonsense.
Right.
What I cracked is not nonsense, because it turned out that a famous conductor who was the 2 popes ago that I can't remember the name, that Pope's name, but he was kind of the house composer and conductor in Rome for that Pope. We're talking about 2 popes ago, not the one now and not the last one, but the one before. I don't know how much you're up on popes' names, but I gave up once I tried to memorize popes' names, and that was it. There were so many of them, and you couldn't tell which one was in, which one was out.
Right.
But anyway, Leonardo, wrote beautiful, beautiful music, and no one was ever able to read it and perform with any musical instruments by reading it, until I came along, and it's so simple what everyone was missing, just like the code on the Shepherd's Monument is so simple. Leonardo used the 47th theorem of Euclid or Pythagoras. It's really Pythagoras who came up with that 47th theorem, and he used it as a way to compose music. And so Danny Nazareth and I met Danny actually at a film festival where Lapis Exulus had come in first as in the documentary division, and he was sitting at the table of honor with me, and I got to talking with him, and he loved all of this stuff actually. And before I knew it, I was flying to Germany, and we were sitting in his kitchen, and we were writing an opera. Then this opera's been performed in San Jose, Costa Rica, in New York, in Istanbul, and so on. And it's all composed. The music part of the opera, not the libretto, but the music part is composed with the code that Leonardo had written.
Is it good?
Yeah. Is the
good?
Opera good, or is the music good?
Is the music good?
I think so. I think it's just really beautiful. It's Renaissance music, but it's you get the feel of Leonardo when you hear it. And you really have to have someone with a gift, or who really knows very well how to compose and with many different instruments to bring out the best of it. But,
I did not know this, and so it wasn't just some crazy coincidence that this code was turned into music, but you're saying that it was music from the word go, and then he coded it.
Well, Pythagoras is famous for a phrase, right? The music of the spheres.
Yes.
So that he came up with the 47th theorem is not alien to the concept of the music of the spheres. Pythagoras understood music to be geometric and had a mathematical base to it, and it does. But the geometric part is the part that's kind of new, at least in today's understanding of music composition. There could be geometry in music, but there is the golden measure, what Leonardo called the divina proporzione, that the divine measure, the golden measure. That there's a lot of music written based on that. Bartók wrote something called the Sonata for 2 pianos, and so on. So it's another zone, it's another area of music composition, but it's one I think that really is satisfying once you get into it.
I have to go check that out. I did not know that, and my mind has officially been blown. There's ice pick in the forehead, number 1 right there.
Okay. Oh, wait till
well, let's go back to the Shepherd's Monument really quick. At what point? Because codes like this, once they're cracked, it's like it's sometimes it's the simplest thing. It's right in front of you. You're too close to the fire. How did it come to you? Did you just see through it in 3D and have an aha moment?
Hold on just 1 second. I'm sorry. Do you have the key? Yeah. I'm sorry about that. There's someone here. I've got an entrance and exit issue with the building I live in. Okay. Please ask me that question.
Yeah, live radio. You got to love it. I almost wanted to listen in the background. One time. Okay, I was gonna tell a story. Back to the Shepherd's Monument.
Yes.
And the question is, codes like that, as complex as they are, once they're cracked, it's like everybody was, I should have known. It seems really simple. for you, when you cracked the code, were you seeing through the monument in 3D? Did it just come to you at all at once?
Well, it sort of did. It kind of did happen, all at once. Once I read the kind of, the parameters that Bletchley Park had established, it became really apparent what was missing in terms of other code breakers' approach to that cipher. And yeah, so it did. I mean, it took me a couple days. I had to build it with several different components of knowledge and wisdom and research. But Charles Darwin was there for weeks and he didn't come up with anything. So I think it was the clue given, and the fact that this clue was given is in itself an anomaly, because the people at Bletchley Park didn't know what the code translated into. But the clue of there being maybe some ancient languages involved is what really, really struck me. And so I started thinking, well, we know that the D and the M, that's 1500 in combination. So if given that is the case, that must have a relationship to whatever's in that straight line of letters. And so I put that together, and I've always thought Nicolas Poussin had some secrets going on. From the first time I was introduced to his paintings, it seemed to me there was something very, very profound about what he was embedding. And sure enough, it turned out to be more than profound. And I mean, we could spend the next hour and a half on this.
We certainly could. And I'll say this: the documentary is called Lapis, Lapis Exilis, Exillis. Just Google that. We will have it. Somebody's going to post it on Twitter here. Go and watch the documentary. And everything is there, but for everybody.
It's uploaded on YouTube, but it's free.
Yeah, and we'll get the link up here momentarily on Twitter, and we'll get it out there. But for everybody, I'm going to cut it. I'm going to condense this. I'm going to cut it short. In the Shepherd's Monument, and we'll have that picture posted up here in a second, is a depiction of a casket. And to cut to the chase, it was your suspicion that the Holy Grail, or an interpretation of what could be the Holy Grail, or a piece of it, was in this casket and possibly made it over to the United States. That was the idea in the beginning of this, and has wound up in New York City. Now that is such that's such a broad stroke of the pen here. But I want you to tell that story a little bit before we move on to Gobekli Tepe.
Okay.
And the cornerstone of the RM building in New York, can you and I go there one day with a couple of sledgehammers, and can we get that thing? Can we get, or is it ever going to get pulled out of that building?
It's been tried.
I bet.
There's a big crack on the marble slab there on the outside, and a man was murdered on the inside, just right next to it. The son of the very person who paid for the construction of the master building. That's what it's called, the master building. It was built for Nicholas Roerich. But about the chest or the casket on top of the other casket, in effect. There's a tradition in Judaism of the tribe of Ephraim maintaining an ark, like the Ark of the Covenant, while they were in Egypt before the great Exodus, and in that chest was kept both the pillow stone of Jacob and the grave headstone of Rachel. who were the grandparents of Ephraim. So Ephraim, while he was exiled in Egypt, ended up producing a tribe of his own. And like everybody else did who had come out of that family, the 12 sons and so on. And Ephraim, of course, is the brother of Manasseh, and those two are the sons of Joseph. And so Joseph kind of gets knocked out of the picture, and Ephraim and Manasseh replace Joseph's role, and you still end up with 12 sons. It's very, very convoluted, all that. And the whole story is, again, it would take us the rest of the time we have here. But the idea is that the sacred pillow stone of Jacob was kept in that casket, the small one that's resting on the larger one, in the second rendition of the Shepherds of Arcadia. So that was, my conclusion, knowing the motives and the encryptions of Nicolas Poussin. And given that it was actually Joseph and his brother Benjamin and Rachel and Jacob who were depicted as the shepherds, and no one had deciphered that either. But when you put the two paintings of Nicolas Poussin together, Shepherds of Arcadia 1 and then Shepherds of Arcadia 2, you see that the whole story of Jacob and Rachel and the two sons is told in the two paintings. What Joseph is doing when he's pouring water down below, that's a direct quote from the accounting of Joseph's life, the prediction of how what will happen to him later, that you find in Genesis. And so, but to the point about the cornerstone of the Master Building in Manhattan on Riverside Drive, that's a different account of a Grail stone that Nicholas Roerich came up with when he himself had obtained two stones, one in India, one when he was in Paris, living in what is now a kind of a apartment that's now owned by the Sultan of Brunei. Every part of this has this rich history. But anyway, so when they were in Paris, a stone was delivered mysteriously from Banker's Trust. When it was written on the wooden box that it was delivered in, that it had come from Banker's Trust, and that was one particular stone. And then there was a second stone that was obtained in India, and it was shipped. Part of the second stone was shipped to New York to go into the cornerstone sort of space that was waiting for all kinds of other things to be put there too, and that's the account of a stone being in that cornerstone in the Master Building. It's not the same one we're talking about, but the vice president of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Henry Wallace, it was absolutely certain that it was the same stone, and he even sent messages and what were they called then? Not telegrams. What is the term I'm trying to think of? When there were messages sent in the 1920s.
Teletype.
Yeah, I guess it was a teletype. And he said, "We await the stone of destiny." And he wrote this to Roerich because he knew that that either the stone or a piece of the stone would be sent across the Atlantic to be put into the cornerstone space with other items that he had sent. Since it was his building, he chose some, very, very precious to him articles that he had collected through his life, and those are still in that cornerstone. But it's not the stone of destiny. Neither is the silly giant stone that's in that castle overlooking Edinburgh that goes under the coronation chair every time a king or queen is coronated. That's not the original stone of destiny either, because it's supposed to be the pillow stone of Jacob.
Right.
And that's, pillow stones that are, look into pillow stones, you'll see they all approximately are the same shape. They have some concavity about them, to make the head more comfortable.
Yeah, they look like pillows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly, and they're not big. So when the Bible in Genesis says that that Jacob had, after he had his vision or his dream of the angels going up and down a ladder to heaven, when he got up, when he stood up, he stood the pillow stone upright, and that's why in Hebrew it's called Eben Shatia, which means the stone stood upright, and he poured anointing oil on it, and made it sacred by that pouring of the anointment oil. Now we're really getting into what I do want to share with you about Gobekli Tepe, because we're now approaching that region.
Sure, let's
do you want me to go ahead?
Yeah, somebody just a few thousand people just drank, and just remember. Let's try to keep people sober enough to make it
until it's over.
Yeah, until let them get to the end of the show. So
okay. Well, then I'll call it. How about GT?
It doesn't work. Oh, GT's the code word. Oh, I'm right now. You should see Twitter right now. It's absolutely hilarious. What's going on? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's take that right-hand turn. I'm ready. Okay.
There's, the story of Jacob and the pillow stone. He's going on an adventure. You don't quite get the whole story about why he's departing the Holy Land to go to a place called Haran, but you get a sense of a mission as you read through the account in Genesis that he's on, and the sense you get comes from what happens to him when he pours the oil, the anointing oil, on the pillow stone. He says, as he's doing it, I take this oath to fulfill the oath. So he's pledging, as he's pouring the anointing oil on the pillow stone, the famous stone of destiny, the lapis lazuli, as it was called in the Grail, romance cycle of literature in Europe. I swear to fulfill this oath. So it's an oath to fulfill an oath that he's saying he's going to do. And the next thing you read is he's on his way to Haran. And now Haran and Sanliurfa are right next to Gobekli Tepe.
How close?
Very close. One is 7 miles. Urfa is 7 miles from Gobekli Tepe, and Haran is about maybe 12 to 14 miles.
Wow! Right there.
Yeah, it is, and it's those are two really holy cities. Sanliurfa was called Edessa, and that's a biblical center. So it's we're talking about reaching a destiny that became really, really important. Not only is it where Leonardo da Vinci had his UFO experience, but it's also where my colleague Jeffrey Rose, who did the great National Geographic
Gobekli Tepe special.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Where he found an almost 12,000-year-old settlement under Sanliurfa. So with that, he was able to prove that this is where the labor may have come from. Well, no, I shouldn't say prove, but speculate.
Sure.
That this is where the labor would have come from to move those many-ton, pillars around to produce that what's now being called a temple at Gobekli Tepe. So there was a workforce available. We get a sense that there may not have been any too many humans around, because everybody was a hunter or a gatherer and so on. So there wouldn't be a big clustering.
Yeah,
not 12,000 years.
Yeah, wink, wink.
When what we now know is that there was a big community right close to Gobekli Tepe. So that one's answered. But anyway, we here we are in an area where Jacob finds his two wives and then their handmaidens, who he also marries, if we want to call it that, and he managed to obtain all 4 wives in that same area and created the family and the nation of Israel. at that same location. So Israel was born there.
Interesting. And I wanted to. I don't know. I want you to look into one thing about those two locations and their relation to Gobekli Tepe. But Gobekli Tepe falls smack dab on the 37th parallel. And when you go across the 37th parallel all the way across, just across the globe, very interesting sites pop up one after another right on the 37th parallel. Are these south of Gobekli Tepe, or are they east and west?
They're just, one is a little bit northeast and the other one is a little bit southwest.
Okay.
But you have to hear Leonardo's own description of the location, and you'll get a really clear sense of precisely where we're talking about. And that's what I can share with you now.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to cite a letter, excerpts from a letter that he wrote to a person he calls Al Diodario. In English, he's the lieutenant of the sacred Sultan of Babylon, and that's what the sultans of the Ottoman Empire were oftentimes referred to as being the Sultan of Babylon. And so we know that he got on with the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire because the letter was found in 1952 in the Topkapi archives that is written to Sultan Bayezid II from Leonardo. So we know who he was communicating with, and what I'm about to quote from is his recording of the letter that is in one of his notebooks. So it starts with the salutation to the Devatar, the lieutenant of the sacred Sultan of Babylon, and I'm just gonna cite the location that he outlines, and then we'll get right to his sighting of a UFO.
Okay.
And it's stunning. I mean, everybody, all these Leonardo da Vinci experts running around, he didn't write anything like that, well, you're not reading his notebooks, you silly people. Don't call yourself a Leonardo expert if you haven't read his notebooks.
Right.
So here he says, finding myself in this part of Armenia, to carry into effect with due love and care the task for which you sent me, and to make a beginning in a place which seemed to me to be most to our purpose, I entered into the city of Kalindra. Now, remind me, Jimmy, to get back to this code, Kalindra. But I want to stay in the rhythm of this, what I'm quoting. Near to our frontiers. This city is situated at the base of that part of the Taurus Mountains, which is divided from the Euphrates and looks toward the peaks of the great Mount Taurus to the west. And that's exactly where you would be if you were either in Haran or in Urfa or Sami Urfa. And so, okay, that's what's in the beginning part of the letter. Now I'm going to read to you. There's two sections of the letter that refer to this UFO. It is, and he's talking again. He's writing to the person he's got to report to, who's, by the way, this person, Diodario, is the minister of finance for the Ottoman Empire.
Gotcha.
This is it, which with you we formerly, in calm weather, had supposed to be a comet, and appears to us in the darkness of night to change its form, being sometimes divided in 2 or 3 parts, and sometimes long and sometimes short. And then he later in the letter goes on to say, why this comet appears in variable forms, so that it is now round and now long, and now again divided into 2 or 3 parts, and now in one piece?
What?
Yeah. And you've heard UFO accounts, probably, of objects that seem to be moving away from each other and then coming together into one and kind of shape-shifting up there in the heavens?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, this is Leonardo's account. So let's now think about this. he's in the area of Haran where Jacob ends up after he has seen something in the heavens that angels are going up into and coming out of.
Okay, look, there's only one way to interpret. There isn't two or three. There's only one way to interpret all of that text, and that's it. That's it. There's when you think about how somebody is trying to describe something that they haven't seen before for the very, very first time, they're going to relate to what they know. And, okay, so he's reaching when he says comet. Obviously, there's something flying in the sky that is turning into two pieces and then rejoining into one, describing it as circular and then long and short and long is very, very curious. There's only one way to interpret any of that. And then when you start to drop in angels, okay, continue. You know what? Let me ask you, Buff. The first time that you deciphered and decoded that, and you're reading this and you're putting your eyes on it, did you lose your mind? Tell me the truth.
Well, once I deciphered the word Kalindra, then I lost my mind. I had to have a double whammy to completely lose my mind.
Well, I've got Kalindra written down right here. Is it with a K or a C?
C.
Okay, Kalindra.
It's with a C, and in Italian, he's calling it Città di Calindra, which means the city of Calindra, which doesn't exist, never has. And that was my first big clue. What is he talking about when he's saying he's entered into the city of Calindra that wasn't there? Well, Calindra, it has a Italian phonology to it. It's pronounced with Italian vowels. Calindra, Città di Calindra. So if you break down Calindra, you have Kali, Nadra. So Kal and Kali and Nadir means where the vow was fulfilled.
No.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
Now,
So what is he saying? What is he saying he knows about Jacob and the pillow stone?
Right.
And Jacob's experience of seeing this in the heavens.
How we're going to get back to this. I have to ask the direct question, which is how does Leonardo find himself at the center of so many important things? What a magical life. I'm serious. I mean, to go from architect to medical, art, sculpture. It's just he was always at the right place at the right time, and this is incredible. And again, I've never heard this before. What when you approach historians with this stuff, how do they deal with it, and how do you deal with them?
Well, first of all, historians are not the specialists to go to with something like this.
You can't.
The first people to go to would be people like Carlo Pedretti, who know Leonardo inside and out, and Carlo especially, who is the world's foremost authority on Leonardo da Vinci, to see if I was right about the Calindra, for example, and he totally accepts it. He thinks there's no question about it. And I mean, he's published me now fairly recently in the 50th book he's written about Leonardo da Vinci. He published my decodes of Leonardo's linguistic ciphers, and so there's a whole lot more than just Calindra, but what I'm saying is he put that decoding in his book and in the form of an essay I wrote, and was very honored to do it. And I helped him put the book together. It's 416 pages. It's a huge book, beautiful illustrated work, and it was released in 2009 with a lot of pomp and circumstance. We had a huge press conference and book launching at the Italian Community Center, or whatever it's called. It's part of the government of Italy, and our book was financed by the president of Italy. You might think that the spirit of Leonardo is haunting us because we managed to have as our major patron the actual president of Italy, not the prime minister, but the president, and that's second only to the prime minister.
Yeah, and how do you? I mean, you went straight to UFO, and reading it, hearing you read it like that. That's the only thing that I can. That's the only conclusion to draw. But what do you think? If it wasn't UFO, what do you think he was trying to describe, or is there only one way to interpret it?
When you read the footnote by the translator of Leonardo, and this is, in my opinion, the second greatest Leonardo scholar who's ever existed. His name is Jean-Paul Richter, and he did all this in the late 1800s. He translated Leonardo's notebooks and he annotated them. So there's a whole lot of his own opinion and interpretations that you find footnoted at the bottom of each page. And here's what Jean-Paul Richter said. Leonardo had first written as though his meaning had been, and then he says, this peak appeared to us to be a comet when you and I observed it in North Syria. And actually that's very close. North Syria, in those days, it would, is what that territory would have been considered. It's right on the border, in effect, with Turkey today.
Right.
And it is in Turkey now. The sites that we've been talking about are in Turkey. They're not in Syria. But he's, for him to say North Syria is accurate for the time period he was writing this. You and I observed it in North Syria. And then in parentheses, the translator says at Aleppo, at Aintes, and then goes on to say the description of the curious reflection in the evening resembling the, quote, alpine glow is certainly not an invented fiction. This is now the annotator and translator writing. For in the next lines, an explanation of the phenomenon is offered, or at least attempted. And my take on that is this is Leonardo da Vinci, the scientist, desperately trying to find an explanation.
Right.
But comets don't do this. What he's described.
And they actually said Aleppo.
Yes.
And that's right there. That's not that far from Gobekli Tepe.
No, that's right. That's right.
That's interesting. And also, if Leonardo is seeing things like this in the air, then he knows things can fly. And then, it's like divine inspiration. And then he went down that path of flying machines because he saw things in the air. He actually saw things, and that's how can I make things fly? How can I duplicate that? It only makes sense. There wasn't any other flying machines. There wasn't things flying around for that kind of inspiration and design and creation and invention. But he's seeing things flying around in the air, and he's thinking to himself, man, okay, if they can fly, then I've got to figure out how to do it myself.
You got it. And note that he stated in that letter that he had been at that site before with the very person he was addressing the letter to.
Is there proof of that anywhere in his travels that he went that far north and east? I guess, from Italy. Well, no, I guess that would just be due east.
Well, he said he went to the Caspian.
Yeah.
Leonardo said he went to the Caspian. There's a time period when this could have happened that Carlo and I figured out. I was wrong in my first. Leonardo never dated anything. Interestingly enough, he did. There were no dates on anything. So you have to fit, his legacy in terms of all of these materials that, especially his notebooks that are half here and half there and so forth. You have to push them into the right context by knowing, where what he's referring to when he's writing these things in his notebooks, and that's a huge job, but it's been going on for a few centuries. So, and enough people who knew about Leonardo, who could read Italian and so on. You got the general drift of what time bracket to put these materials in, these archives in. So it's known that there was a period when there's no sense of where he was exactly, and that's the period that we're talking about, because it's also the period when Leonardo. There is a date on the letter that he wrote directly to the Sultan Bayezid II of the Ottoman Empire, and that I think is 1501. So that is roughly speaking the period of time we're in this particular context with his sighting, and he's on his way to the Caspian, and he explains what he's doing, that he in terms of why he would have gone that far to the Caspian coast, and he was studying language origins. But it turns out that, and while I was doing all this work, it was found that his mother had been actually kidnapped, abducted. I'm certain it was by the Mamluks, because their whole empire was based on slavery, and she was sold after going through Istanbul. She was sold on the auction block of Tuscany. And that's recently been found in the archives of Tuscany. And so when they found this fingerprint in so many of his paintings with these swirl patterns that, we're all supposed to have different fingerprints, and we do, but ethnically speaking, we also bear a certain amount of our ethnicity in the swirl patterns of our fingerprints. So the patterns in Leonardo's fingerprints, 60% of the Arabs ever tested have the same pattern.
No kidding.
Yeah, and so that can't come from his father's side, because his father's lineage was known many, many generations back, and there are no Arabs around his father's ancestry. But his mother, coming from Azerbaijan, would have had some Arabic in her, because the Arabs had invaded Azerbaijan area and occupied that area for over 400 years in the earliest period of Islam. So obviously the gene pool had been infused with Arab genes, and that would account for why an Azerbaijani mother would have passed on anything Arabic to her son.
Did Leonardo ever talk about sightings in the sky other than that one point?
Not that I have found. Keep in mind, there are a lot of missing notebooks that he makes reference to, but no one has found, and they may never be found.
Right.
But it could well be that something surfaces, and he makes reference to that again. What intrigues me is that he had this sighting twice. Once with the very person he's writing the letter to.
Right.
And that's pretty compelling stuff.
Yeah, it is. What about his trips to the cave?
Okay. Are you asking, is it the cave at Ephesus?
Yeah. I mean, well, what do you think was going on there?
I'm very mixed about it, because they have found a cave that they think is the cave that he was talking about, but knowing his interest in Anatolia, and knowing that famous cave of Ephesus in Anatolia, I just have a hunch that there's a connection there. And when you see his paintings, there are two paintings where he's got, the Madonna and baby Jesus and Anne and so forth in the cave. And they're calling it a grotto.
Right.
In terms of naming these paintings, but it's supposed to be the cave, and Mary, Mary died supposedly in the Ephesus region. The home of Mary is still there.
When you started to, how did you? Well, I let me go direct. How did you crack his writing? How did you approach it, and how did you get it done?
Well, after getting over all the bogus nonsense about the Da Vinci Code.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go there. Okay, but
no, it's okay. No, there's no problem going there. I applaud the author because it stirred up a whole, nest of interest in Leonardo, and for that, I would say that it was there was more good than bad to the book and to the film. But anybody who takes seriously, the material, the contents of either the book or the film, in terms of it depicting anything that's really accurate about Leonardo, then they need to talk to me. they need to go through Leonardo's notebooks with me and so on. I got onto Leonardo in the 70s when I was just a wee kid, and my Italian brother-in-law bought me Leonardo's notebooks at Balboa Park in San Diego. And that's what kind of started that. Plus, I was inventing and painting and doing a whole lot myself, and I found finally an exemplar to not to worship, but to study. And so the more I studied from the 70s on Leonardo, the more it became apparent that there were codes, and genuine codes, not Da Vinci Code stuff, but some real stuff, and that he somehow seemed to be a part of a continuum of transmission of knowledge that other people didn't have access to. And that intrigued me. Secret societies associated with Leonardo, and this is before the Da Vinci Code. And we're not talking Priory of Sion here. We're talking Order of the Crescent, for example, with Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan, who was one of his 2 or 3 most important patrons in his lifetime.
Yep.
And that secret society did exist. It's just that Leonardo, what time would he have had to organize, meetings for a secret order and to create the echelon system that would be necessary for it to survive and transmit? That would be, people who Ludovico Sforza would have assigned, to that duty. And Leonardo was, I don't think he ever was a grand master or anything like that. He just didn't have time. And I don't think he would have had the interest, knowing him the way I think I do. But that said, if a secret society is available and it has some, explosive information that it keeps under wraps because of the Vatican or for whatever other reason, and if I were Leonardo at the time, I would do everything to placate, my way into the inner sanctum of that secret society to find out what they knew.
What kind of stuff can you share with us that was, really mind-blowing when you started to pick these codes apart?
Of Leonardo specifically, or in a kind of a general way?
Well, I know that you have a list of stuff in your mind that rate high, that even you just find amazing. And can you share some of those with us?
The codes?
Yes.
Well, number 19, for example, and I know this is going to raise eyebrows because of the number of conspiracy theories associated with 9/11, but I know the Quran, and I know it in Arabic, and I know that there is a verse in chapter 74, it's verse 30, and it says, above there are 19, and they are the angels of the fire. And just before that verse, there's a reference to a heap of smoking, steaming rubble that results from Jews and Christians turning their backs on their own sacred writs. So 19 is the number of hijackers.
Right.
And when I came forward with this immediately after 9/11, the Bishop of New York flew me to New York, and he brought me to Ground Zero, and we walked right across it. He was, being the Bishop of New York, he could do most anything he wanted to do, and he took me there. And I was shocked and stunned, and he had embraced my decoding of this number 19 that was used by Al Qaeda, and the whole Quran is built on the number 19. By the way, one way or another, 19 is the base number in terms of numbers of chapters, and it goes on and on. That's why a lot of Muslims think it's miraculous, just simply because of the embeddedness of this number 19, that they think only Allah would have been able to, perform or conduct. But it's very important to recognize that I certainly did not think that this was a prophecy in the Quran, but that it was something that some delusional minds had identified with and took it from there. Zacharias Moussaoui was supposed to have been the intended 20th hijacker, and when I wrote a manuscript on this that I used when I was giving lectures and presentations about this number 19 right after 9/11, his lawyers asked me for the manuscript. And I had already been interviewed by the FBI a couple of times on this very subject. And before I knew it, the FBI saw to it to lift the charge of being the intended 20th hijacker.
So the 19 would hold.
Pardon?
I said the 19 would hold then.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
There weren't 20 intended. Right away, intelligence agencies and some know-it-alls thought, well, gee, there's 5 hijackers in this plane, 5 in that one, 5 in that one, and only 4 in this one. Something went wrong. And since Zacharias Moussaoui had already been arrested before 9/11 happened, everybody was pointing their fingers at him. And he kept denying it. And it became very apparent that he was going to be part of a follow-up series of, dastardly deeds, and never got a chance to perform them. But he was not the intended 20th hijacker. They wouldn't have lifted that charge from him if he wasn't.
Did he? Did Vinci prophesize?
Yeah,
he did. Again, my mind is blown. I didn't know that he did prophesize, and was it all encoded? And why isn't this spoken about more often? This is the first time I've heard about this.
Well, I think a lot of people in who are part of the intelligentsia, want to keep Leonardo clean of mysticism, and they want him to be a hero to young scientists and rationalists and so on. But anybody who gets into Leonardo is not going to stay in that framework for very long, I can tell you. But I think there's been actually a concerted effort to conceal all this other side of the mystical side of Leonardo, just because he is such an exemplar for young people. And I understand that, but I think that there hasn't been suppression to the extent that his materials were destroyed, or or his prophecies were hidden. I've got them right in front of me. They're in one of the 2 volumes that I've got. He quotes the Quran, and he cites Muhammad. He even says that he's in a book, and he's explaining this to his patron, that he's going to open the book with the confession of faith of Islam. That's, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. You have to say that if you're a Muslim or you're becoming a Muslim.
Right.
And he's stating explicitly that he's going to open his book with that.
Oh, man.
Now, why would he be doing that?
Man, send all of your email to Buff Parry.
Please don't. But no, I'll tell you what. If people are interested and they want to follow through, I'm open to receiving. But I would like it if you didn't give my email address out or my phone number. But if there was a way if you have any system that, and you probably do, some filtering system,
sure.
I'm ready to chat with with people who are truly interested and they have nothing but goodwill in mind.
Oh, everybody does. We have a great family here. This is Fade to Black, bespoke ready for the masses on the Game Changer Network, starting Monday, March 9th, KGRA. Exciting times are with us. We are talking with Buff Parry. Now, Buff, back to let's swing this ship back around to Gobekli Tepe.
Okay.
And here's the direct question there. How significant is Gobekli Tepe for archaeology and history?
Talk about a game changer. It's a game changer. I will accept that if that's been found, we better brace ourselves for what's next. Because if no one ever dreamt that a 12,000-year-old temple with the elegance of this of Gobekli Tepe would have ever been found, with the precision, of the pillars alone. Forget what's carved on them. 12,000 years ago, it's unimaginable. It was unimaginable. No one had room in their, repertoire of paradigms to even consider something like this. And now what are we seeing? Now we're understanding that really this may have caused, at least in part, this shift from hunting and gathering to agriculture. And then where organized religion, falls into place in relation to that. I won't go so far as to accept one of the arguments that this is the pivotal event, and it was at that location where the big shift happened. I think it would be a broader series of sites that are related to each other. I don't believe it's one site. I don't believe that was the Mecca for, people far and wide.
Right, the progenitor of everything.
Yeah, it's not big enough.
Right. And the other, have you ever considered, and I'm sure you have, if Gobekli Tepe is sitting there at 12,000 BC, then knowledge leading up to Gobekli Tepe came from somewhere too, potentially going back thousands of years. That stone carving and quarrying and everything that is at what Gobekli Tepe represents had to be learned from somewhere. And now we're pushing way back into the Ice Age and what civilizations could and couldn't have survived through all of that, and how long that knowledge was accumulated. Are we going back millennia before that when truly there was supposed to be nothing? And it blows my mind. Have you looked at it like that?
I've always been a little wary about that, but the more, the deeper I plunge into this realm, the more I'm leaning toward the idea that I can't believe that there was such a high civilization that we attribute to Atlantis and so on. I'm not quite at that place, but
right.
But I am of the view that there were some very high points, way before we've even imagined there could be. Now that we have Gobekli Tepe, why would it stop there? With that much perfection and precision, there has a whole lead up to it, So we're going right back into a time of glaciation.
Yes. About 10 years ago, I was speaking with someone who we all consider one of the smartest guys in the world, right? Physicist. And when I brought up Pumapunku and a couple of other ancient civilizations and talking about the possibility of this being 10,000 or 15,000 years old, and this was his reaction. I'm serious too. Stop right there. And I was like, well, what? No. Ice Age, 10,000 years ago. That's it. Everything. No. There's nothing before that. Wouldn't even participate in the conversation. And he's like, what sites are these? And I said, well, there's this one, and there's this one, and there's this one. And he goes, no. It was astonishing to me that he didn't even want to listen. Didn't just literally told me to stop. And I'm sorry, I stood my ground. But that's the way that academia looks at all of this. And when we have Gobekli Tepe there right now, Buff, and
Yep.
It's like they're still in denial.
Oh, I know. I hate the word anomaly, even though I've just created an institute called the Institute for the Study of Indigenous Anomalies. but I otherwise I can't stand the word anomaly because people use it as a catch-all, bag or box to, throw into everything that they can't understand or that they can't place in a taxonomic order. And we're going to keep seeing this, unfortunately, as time passes until they make the discovery. The people who are so resistant, your physicist friend, for example, if he made the discovery, then he'd be at the bullhorn and pounding out the details. But I think that anomaly gives people a kind of a security blanket feeling. Okay, we don't know what it is, but we'll put it in the anomaly category, and it's safe and sound there. And then when we're able, we'll return to it at some point.
Right.
And then they leave it. And there are so many anomalies around. I'm working with artifacts right now that have been vetted. There are people who are working with artifacts that have not been vetted, and they're purporting all kinds. Yeah,
Sure.
And they're saying all kinds of weird things that are just attempts to fulfill, or to somehow prove their theories. But the artifacts I'm dealing with there are 4 cuneiform inscribed artifacts. Cuneiform, and this comes from the same region as Gobekli Tepe too. 4 artifacts that have cuneiform inscriptions that have been found in North America. And one of them was in the medicine bag of Chief Joseph of the Nez Perce. He stopped the Indian Wars, this Chief Joseph. 1877 is when the U.S. Army general who apprehended him also had access to his medicine bag, and in it found this clay-baked small tablet with cuneiform writing. 1877, they hadn't even completely deciphered cuneiform yet. Most of it had been deciphered by about 1850, but there were maybe 8 to 10% elements of cuneiform that had not been discerned or deciphered.
Where did Joseph get it?
And see, the thing is, we so underestimate and undervalue indigenous accounting of phenomena, that we've tended not to pay attention to sound oral traditions.
Sure.
And, Chief Joseph relayed an oral tradition. He said, long ago, many generations ago, these people came amongst us. And I'm quoting him directly. These people came amongst us and gave me this. And he used, not the people who had come amongst us, but the his relatives who passed it along down the line,
right,
gave it to him, and he started using it for medicine purposes. And so he's got a notion that it's got something sacred about it. For it to be in the medicine bag, just that alone it means that he understood that there was something sacred about this tablet. But his oral tradition was that he was taught that these people had come, to quote him, had come amongst us and left this. Well, he also had a pouch that had a beaded pattern on the outside of it, and the beaded pattern is the Star of Asher. Now, the Star of Asher is the national symbol of the Assyrians, both in ancient times and today. So the Assyrians, those few who are left after all of the genocidal treatments that they've undergone, like the worst now happening with ISIS to them, they embraced the Nez Perce and started publishing feature items in the Assyrian Times and so on, saying that these are our people. The Nez Perce nation of North America are our people. We are, we Assyrians are Nez Perce, or Nez Perce are Assyrians, because of this tablet and because of the Star of Asher beaded onto this pouch he wore on his belt.
Right.
And it's a very clear, it's a type of octagon, but it's nothing like the other octagons that indigenous peoples in North America used. It is a Star of Asher. It's very clearly so.
Now,
why did he have that?
Exactly. Without one or the other, then we could strike it up to coincidence or cuneiform writing tablet. Anyway, but when you combine the both of them together, what's the conclusion that you come to? I have mine. I want to know yours.
Okay, the tablet's dated. The date is on the tablet. The date for the calendrical system that was used at the time that the tablet was created, and the cuneiform was written on it, was scratched onto it. It's put on. Cuneiform always was written on wet clay, or not always, but most often. And so it then would be baked, and you'd have a real permanent inscription.
Sure.
The date on Chief Joseph's tablet is 2042 BC.
Come on. Really? Buff. Really? And this has been vetted?
It's been vetted. It was vetted by the Assyriology division of the Oriental Institute at the University of Chicago.
Well, they're the Sumerian cuneiform leaders right there.
In North America, they are.
Absolutely.
It was Dr. Big who did it. So, I mean, you can't ask for more vetting than that. Plus, 1877.
Exactly.
You might be more dubious if there was something like there's another tablet that is carved with cuneiform. It's a lead tablet that was found in 1963 in Georgia. And I'm working on getting the rights to take it on tour with Chief Joseph's tablet, which is, guess where that's kept right now? West Point Military Academy.
Unbelievable. And when you look at these types of objects, complete parts, right, out of place artifacts, in North America, what does that say to all of us here in North America? I think, and I always get email after I say what I'm about to say. It's going to inevitably happen in the morning. But North America is kind of ignored. And what I mean by that is, and I say this with affection, but we always talk about Giza and we talk about Greece, or we talk about the Mediterranean and Africa and Iraq, and I get that. I understand that. North America seems to be ignored when it comes to ancient civilizations and the possibility of things coming here. Look at Oak Island and the ideas that are put forth there, or somebody getting here before Columbus in 1492. That it just didn't happen, and no. I just don't get that. And now you have a vetted cuneiform tablet that says, "Look, explain this to me. It didn't just fall out of the sky here." And it says a lot about who could have been here before. Why do you think that North America just doesn't get its just due when it comes to this? And they just want to call it, like you said, an anomaly. It's not real.
Because if they accept it and spend a lot of time with it, they're undermining the paradigms that they're milking and that they're living off of, or because of, and maintaining faculty positions and tenure, all of that. At a university level, it's dangerous to get into all of this area and be a respectable member of faculties. Once you've come out, once you've accepted, okay, these are authentic items. They have been vetted, and here's the real problem. You'll get academics getting desperate when you show that the vetting process that has occurred with so many of these items. They first of all, they really don't even want to hear it. But if you force it on them and then they have to process it, what they come up with is the following: well, weren't there thousands of cuneiform, inscribed clay baked tablets that started to get circulated all around the world, and why would it be so strange for Chief Joseph to have ended up with one of them? The problem is all of the great troves of these tablets weren't even discovered until 1900. So we're talking about 1877, 23 years before the first really big discovery of the 30 and 40,000 clay tablets written in cuneiform that it just hadn't been discovered. They were buried deep under, and so then the recourse to that fact might be, for someone who wants to use the anomaly category, would be, well, some of them surely must have surfaced or had been around, and somehow it got into Chief Joseph's hands. Well, Chief Joseph himself had no reason to be lying when he said that my ancestors received this. Plus, if you understood Chief Joseph's role in the Nez Perce society, he was the conduit for the priestly order. It was called the Dream Cult, and all kinds of different names were assigned to it, by anthropologists and so on. And Chief Joseph was their conduit. He was their voice. And there's just no way he would invent an oral tradition saying that so many generations ago these people came amongst us. There would be no reason for him to do it either.
No, it would be, look, there's nothing wrong with telling the truth if some white or French explorer happened to have it on him and was tooling through that part of the country in the early 1800s or whatever, and somehow this was given to him as a gift, then that's the story. I get that, and he would tell that story. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the oral. There wouldn't be any reason to lie or make it up. But what you're suggesting, and I want to be clear here, so what you're suggesting is Sumerian culture somehow made it to North America in 2000 BC and dropped some of these off. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, the lead tablet that was found in Georgia by Mrs. Hearn when she was preparing her flower garden. It just sounds the whole. I mean, when you hear what I just said, when I hear what I just said, it's yeah, right. She was preparing a flower garden, and she hosed up a lead tablet with cuneiform writing that has the same date on it that Chief Joseph's tablet has.
Yeah. What are the odds? What are the odds? And what year? What year did she was she gardening?
63.
1963.
Yeah.
And was the Chief Joseph tablet at that point, was it well known and documented?
Not really.
Right.
Not really, but of course that's the first thing that went through my mind. Is somebody heard about it, so they've put a hoax out there.
Sure.
And they're gonna strengthen the notion that it's not a hoax by being able to cite names and holidays and the subject matter is sacrificial animals. And in Chief Joseph's case, it's one lamb, a sacrificial lamb, for an event that is referred to. And then in the lead tablet, it's goats and sheep for sacrifice that are referred to, but going to the same date. And then there's yet another cuneiform inscribed tablet in Georgia, and there's a fourth in Ohio. But then there's this humdinger. That is an ironstone with an inscription carved into it that is Inanna. But it's not to forget who Inanna is. She's the goddess who starts the continuum that ends with Venus.
Correct.
And Ishtar and Aphrodite and all of those. They're all part of. There are other continuums of goddesses, but this is one continuum, and Inanna started it, and she's kind of the ultimate goddess of the ancient Sumerian people, and then becomes Ishtar and Astarte and so on through time when Babylon forms and Akkad forms and so forth. So. The ironstone tablet found on Shawnee Creek in Oklahoma is vetted, and it was vetted by a colleague of mine who deciphered the Dillman script, which was being used before cuneiform.
Just don't tell me it's the same date. Just don't tell me it's the same date.
No, it's not. It's not, and and Dillman writing did precede Sumerian type cuneiform writing and matches up with some of the Indus Valley writing Dillman does, interestingly so. And we know that there was a place, that is today called Bahrain and Qatar, where all of those empires and civilizations would meet on this hub to trade. So there was a time when they all coexisted. A period when the Indus Valley civilization was still flourishing.
Sure.
The Sumer people were, the Dillman people were.
Yeah, from Beijing to Morocco. Just straight across. Yeah, no doubt. I really quick. Oh, we're at the top of the hour. Just let me get this out of the way. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network, starting Monday, March 9th. KGRA will be our flagship station. I am your host, Jimmy Church. We are talking with Buff Parry. We are going across the board tonight. We're leaving nothing off the table tonight. Buff, this just came across a couple of times in Twitter, so I need to back up and I need to address something.
Okay.
The comment in Twitter is, did Buff say he didn't believe in Atlantis? What? Okay, so and now when we're talking about the Indus Valley and we're talking about that part of the world and the Pacific Rim all the way into Africa, we've had a couple of guests on the show talking about Atlantis possibly being in that area, and then the references back to Gobekli Tepe and lost civilizations. What's your take on Atlantis? Let's just stop this right now.
Well, I have two takes on it. One is a question. I'm being a little bit rhetorical with this by posing the question: why do we have to have it to account for anything? Why is that a necessity?
Do you ask yourself that, or are you asking us that?
I do, and I'm asking others that too.
Okay.
Why is that somehow a prerequisite? One. And two, considering the fact that we're only dealing with something Plato put out. I know the arguments about there being other terms that are used in ancient Egyptian and so forth.
That's right.
But that's all guesswork. It's all speculative. I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I'm saying that we don't need for it to have happened.
Okay.
To account for the world as we know it today, and for some of these ancient, accomplishments. Look at the Antikythera. This is a computer.
Yes.
It's over 2,000 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all alone. There's nothing else that goes with it. There's nothing else around it. There are no other artifacts that are part of it. Well, that didn't come from Atlantis, because Atlantis is way before 2,000 years ago, or 22 centuries ago. For sure it is, if it happened. But I'm just saying we don't need to rely. I don't think we need to rely on it to account for a prehistory that is filled with mysteries.
Yeah, the Antikythera, the heartbreaker for me when it comes to that, and it's just a good thing we're just sitting here having a conversation, because I'm totally segueing into something else. But when it comes to that, I think, and this is the heartbreaker, I think it just came from Sicily. And when the Moors had invaded there, I'm trying to think of the Greek mathematician that was living in Sicily at the time. He probably...
Strabo?
No, bigger. Got to go bigger. But anyway, and he left Sicily, boat sank, and he made it, and I think it came from Sicily. Would I love for it to have come from Atlantis or Lemuria or some crazy, situation? Sure. I mean, we all want those kind of thoughts, but I think there's a simple explanation for it. As miraculous of a invention as it was, and it was incredible. I think it came from Sicily. Yeah.
But you're saying Moors, and Moors are always associated with an Islamic period. So it's been dated to about, at the oldest, to 200 BC, at the very oldest.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting it's not that old?
I will share with you some information tomorrow that is pretty insightful, and for me, it's just it's a morale crusher when it comes to it, because I want to dream too, and I would like a little bit more to it than that, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. As advanced as it was and everything, I'm just saying, I'll send you what I have, and you can check that out. I'm just bumming out Twitter right now in the audience. They're like, Jimmy, no, don't go there. But,
no, and to help recover the broken hearts out there, I maybe shouldn't have said I don't believe in Atlantis. I just don't think we have to have it as a factor in order for everything else to have happened the way they did, the way that developments around the world happened, and I think there's been a lot of wrongful science that has come from the belief in Atlantis, like the interrelationship between all pyramids around the world. When you think architecturally, and you come to understand why teepees are shaped the way they are, or yurts are shaped the way they are.
Right.
It's something like Cheops and the three pyramids on the Giza Plateau. We are talking about something different there. There's no question. But to say that all pyramids are interrelated, when pyramids are probably the soundest architectural structure there is, and humans have a capability to stumble on that realization over time, especially when you see what indigenous peoples, are doing architecturally and have been doing for thousands and thousands of years. We can advance without the necessity of some kind of, order of great teachers that had to come to us to teach us almost as if they didn't have their own set of great teachers that taught them. There's an infinite, what's it called, reductio ad absurdum to this, infinite regression. There are all kinds of terms and phrases to apply to this. If we're going to depend on the notion that there were, and I'm not saying that there haven't been visitors and that there haven't been very brilliant, wise entities that have come amongst the human species. I'm not saying that didn't happen or can't have happened, but to assign to that external force all accomplishments is kind of doing us a disservice. Because then what do we have? If somebody like Leonardo da Vinci emerges, he must be Anunnaki derived.
Right.
And, you can't, maybe he was, but we know there's a mystery about his mother.
What about, okay, so when I look at, this is my take, and I'll answer your question, why do we need Atlantis? I look at things a little bit more simplistic in that the Earth is an old place, and we see how things can degrade very quickly. Cities can quickly just turn into rubble and disappear. And I have no idea how many civilizations going back we can go back 100 or 200,000 years, and the possibility of us today, just like we're living today, could have existed. The very same technology that we have today, the life that we live today, could have existed 300,000-400,000 years ago, went away, buried, done. And it started over and started over and started over. And I'll use Gobekli Tepe as an example of that. Not to go back to Gobekli Tepe, but it wasn't supposed to exist either. And we so quickly, Buff, and you and I were talking about this earlier this week, we so quickly forget about the past. It's like the easiest thing for us to do. We forget languages, we forget history. The pyramids in Egypt are a great example of that. We don't even know why they're there or who did it or anything. We don't know anything. We've forgotten about that. Mm-hmm. So how many times could this have possibly happened in the past? It's a crazy amount of times, and it's not insanity on my part to think like this. I'm basing it on our own very examples of history that are right in front of us. We can't explain so many things that are of very, very recent history.
I completely agree, and what you had told me to stop speaking about a couple days ago when we were talking. We for what time is left, we can get into, and you'll see. I just think we should keep an open mind and not settle on one single explanation. And so Atlantis, to me, is too much of one single explanation. That's to get to that point. Okay, it just is. There's too much dependency upon that. And by depending upon that, we narrow our scope in regards to other possibilities that may be even more astounding than Atlantis.
Sure, I'm with you on that. I'm right with you there.
Okay, so getting back to Gobekli Tepe and the whole Orion association with Gobekli Tepe, and then the way that the identification of Orion changes through civilizations, and why it is that one civilization tries to erase the understanding of Orion by name changing. They say if you name it, you own it. And imperial colonial civilizations have tended to do that, to try to name everything, and then it's theirs. And I think this is what's happened and what happens through human history. But what we will find, if we can lift that off of the layers of changing names of things like the Orion constellation, we're going to find a story that's quite astounding. that does seem to come out of Gobekli Tepe and perhaps other sites like Gobekli Tepe that tell us an enormous amount. You know, there's a rooster constellation and zodiac sign amongst the Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there also was one with Orion when he wasn't called Orion, but he was called the Good Shepherd of Anu. The rooster constellation is at his right hand and just behind it in the depictions, and that ends up in Rome. In the rise of Christianity, they have the Good Shepherd with the same lamb around his neck, and he's got the rooster under his right hand and behind it. And I can tell you the name of the site that you can go to and see it yourself here. It's Campostello, it's called. So, do you want to go over the name changing?
Well, we need to. And one of the aspects about Gobekli Tepe that we didn't get into tonight, which we're about to do right now, is its direct connection to astronomy and astrology that is right there, not only in the depictions of the naming of the constellations, which always disturbs me, how that connection seems to be global. Doesn't matter what civilization you go into, but it's there. But it's there at Gobekli Tepe too as well, and that I find fascinating. We keep saying 12,000 years ago, but how do you explain what looks to be pure astrology showing up on those pillars in Gobekli Tepe?
Well, exactly, and with a lot of precision. Wait till you hear what I have to say about the twins with the beaks that are on one of those pillars.
Oh, on the bird, yeah.
They're twins. They're facing each other, and they each have a beak. But I have to get. I've got some notes in front of me. I got a cheat sheet in front of me, Jimmy. Is
That's
that
okay.
All right?
That's quite all right.
Okay. Gobekli Tepe has these H symbols that are carved on the stones and on the pillars and on the belt buckles or the belts, and those are called by a lot of people these days Orion. That the H stands for Orion. And one of the individuals who's done that is a person named Wayne Herschel, and compares them to the Mali Dogon's tribal symbol called Kanaga, which is the H, and it is also Orion. To the Kanaga, to the Mali Dogon tribe, and it's the same kind of an H. Why they're doing this with Orion is because of the middle crossbar, and it's suggested that represents the belt of Orion, and it's a line along a straight line that would lead you to the star of Sirius. So the Dogon's Kanaga shape, it's said to be a person-type god, and today, that would be called Orion. And there's this large school of thought that has not only the H symbol at Gobekli Tepe, meaning constellation Orion, but the pillar 18 is dressed in the impression of a giant hunter.
Ah, yes.
Right?
Yes.
So there are two of those pillars. There's pillar 18, and I'm not sure what the other number is, but there's two main pillars. And pillar 18 has this giant hunter. So let's look at the names of Orion, and we'll get back to Gobekli Tepe. And I think this is all going to make a whole lot of sense. Chaldeans and Babylonians, they called the Orion constellation Tammuz. And the late Sumerians did as well, and based Tammuz on their earlier shepherd god, that in the Babylonian star catalog of the late Bronze Age was called both the true shepherd of Anu and the heavenly shepherd. So the word Tammuz is related, and get this, now this is incredibly important, and we'll take a little break away from my outline here. Thomas, doubting Thomas, right? Thomas Didymus. in the Christ story. Thomas means twin. So Thomas Didymus is a repetition of Thomas, right? Didymus, Thomas, Demus, Thomas, Damas. But Thomas Didymus, in linguistics, that's called productive reduplication when you do something like Didymus. So you're actually twinning the twins, just in that name, Thomas Didymus. And this is the result of many translations and people getting confused along the way as well. So Didymus and Demas means twin. Tamus, the word Tamus, is related to Didymus. And it also means son. Okay?
I'm with
and
you.
There are two names for the true shepherd of Anu, who is Orion, and in ancient Sumerian, and it's Papshukal and Ninshubar. But together they both lead to the overall title of Orion, which is the true shepherd of Anu. Okay, so this constellation in ancient Egypt and in the Egyptian language had two names. One which is Asur, that becomes Osiris, not in Egyptian language or hieroglyphs. That's a Greco-Roman thing that happens to the word Asir. And Sahu. And so Sahu is the soul of Asur. And then Asur is Osiris. Both are names for the constellation of Orion. This is in ancient Egypt. Now we're starting to get into the spooky stuff. In ancient Aramaic, Orion was called Nephilah, whose sons would naturally be Nephilim.
Mm-hmm.
In Hebrew, in Job 38:31, Orion is called Kessel, and otherwise is called Gever or Gebir in Hebrew. Now, Gebir is the Hebrew Semitic counterpart to the Arabic Al-Jabbar, which means giant. So it becomes Orion in Greek mythology,
mm-hmm.
as the name of a giant, a worker in iron, and a mighty hunter. But no one knows what the etymology of Orion is. Where did this word come from?
Right.
Now, in Akkadian, from Akkad, the word for Orion is Uruana. Uruana. Orion. Uruana. Pretty close sounding.
Yeah. Phonetically, it's pretty close.
It is, yeah. It means heaven's light in Akkadian. Okay, so while the Greek name change to Orion was replaced when the Arabics took command with Al-Jabbar, which means the giant.
Right.
The Arab star name changes took on a full return to the afterlife passage of the ancient Egyptians and Sumerians shepherded by the three-star belt wearer. So the three-star Arab names, the three stars of the belt of Orion in Arabic tell the whole story of the afterlife transmission. Now, this is where it really gets just incredible. The three stars of the belt of Orion are called Al-Nitak, Al-Nilam, and Mintaka. Al-Nitak, Al-Nilam, Al-Mintaka. So in Greek, or Greco-Latin, the Al-Nitak was changed. Well, let's look at what the Egyptian, the original Egyptian terms were for those stars. So Al-Nitak, which is the first of the three, it was called Atar. The second, Al-Nilam, which is the second of the three, was called Altar. And then the third is Ater, which it means the belt of Orion. Okay, that's the ancient Egyptian naming of the three stars of the belt of Orion. So now what happens? The Greco-Latin sets in, and the first star, Al-Nitak, becomes Zeta Orionis, or girdle.
Ah.
Al-Nilam Al-Nilam, the second star, is Epsilon Orionis, or string of pearls. And the third star is Al-Mintaka, which is Delta Orionis, or the giant's belt. But look at, now, here's where it gets stunning. So we know what the Egyptian names were.
Right.
And then they're all changed, and the whole story's changed. It's no longer the shepherd of Anu; it's now the great hunter, and the rooster has become a rabbit in the changeover.
That's right.
And so the hunter's not hunting a rooster, right? The hunter's hunting a rabbit.
Right.
So the change was absolute. But the Arabs come along, and they seem to know the ancient story. Are they able to read the hieroglyphs?
No.
And did they find it out from the hieroglyphs? That's what we're taught, that they didn't know it. It took Champollion, right? To make so here are the Arabic meanings. Al-Nitak, the first star of the three stars, is limit, border, boundary, girth, enclosure, limited boundary. Those are the meanings of Al-Nitak. Well, what was the Egyptian meaning of Al-Nitak? Limit. So the Arabic and the Egyptian are the same in the naming of the first star. Different words, but the same meaning.
Right.
The second star, Al-Nilam, okay, in Arabic means Milky Way, blue Nile, indigo, blue sapphire, white water, lily flower, and a woman's name, Nilam. So what was the Egyptian for Al-Nilam, for the second star? Athar, which means the Nile. And you know the story about the Milky Way and the Nile.
Yes.
This is ancient. This isn't something that Beauval and Anthony
Hancock,
West,
right?
And Hancock came up with. This is they drew this all out of and we're not giving credit to where it's talking about ancients and giving credit to ancients. This may not be coming from Atlantis, but we're talking about a really ancient time here when these names are assigned, and the Egyptians got it from somewhere. So the final word, Al-Mintaka, means in ancient Egyptian, it means the belt of Orion itself, or it means zodiac. So Al-Mintaka in Arabic means zone, range, the zodiac, general vicinity or area. So you're starting in the limited bounded origin, you're crossing the Milky Way or you're crossing the Nile, and you reach the general area, the full zodiac, you reach heaven. Al-Mintaka. And the account is the same in Egyptian and Arabic, and yet we're taught that Arabs did not know Egyptian, and the only relationship Egyptian and Arabic have to each other is the fact that Egyptian is what used to be called Hamitic, along with Berber and Hausa and some of the other North African languages, the language of the Dogon.
How does it go from? How does it span across from Turkey and 8,000 years and land in Giza? How do you connect that dot? Because that's a big dot to connect.
Well, if people were seeing the heavens, the stars, the constellations, from a common perspective, let's not forget, there was Gobekli Tepe was only 12,000 years ago. We've got evidence of lapis lazuli that came from the furthest reach of Afghanistan, where the border is with China, all the way to pre-dynastic Egypt, found all over the place. So, with trade like that comes sharing of knowledge and wisdom, and especially of accounts of the stars and of, equinox times and solstice times and all the rest of it. If people are moving that much And they had to have been, to get lapis lazuli and as much as was gotten from that far-flung, most northern eastern part of Afghanistan all the way into Egypt before there were any dynasties, before any pharaohs existed, is I think an extremely impressive and important fact that helps to answer your question. Because with that kind of ancient trade, and it happened with obsidian too, and you know with obsidian the very volcano that produced it.
Right.
It's got a fingerprint like about it in the way that it, the crystalline structure. So you can know when that obsidian was roughly, when it was, in conjunction or in time proximity to when the volcano blew. You know at least where it came from. You don't necessarily know the beginning of the trade network, but you can speculate about that, and there's going to be some closeness in time. We know here, for example, the great explorer La Vérendrye, when he had set out to find a passage through the Rocky Mountains from east to west, he was given obsidian by Cree people who really controlled the network. The word Mississippi comes from the Cree language, and I mean it's the largest First Nation or Indigenous nation in Canada, second only in North America to the Navajo in terms of numbers of people. They told La Vérendrye that this obsidian came from the mountain that spits fire. Well, that obsidian was traced to Mount Edziza in British Columbia. Mount Edziza blew in the 11th century. So the obsidian came about in the 11th century, but the Cree were trading it in the 18th century. And they had an oral tradition that said it came from the mountain that spits fire. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
And you can do this. You can apply this kind of measure, this metrology,
right?
This way of measuring, and you can see what a terrible crime it is to have so totally ignored indigenous oral traditions.
Sure.
It's a great thing that some of them got written down. And now it's getting harder and harder to collect them and to square them, the oral traditions like Chief Joseph's with something like a cuneiform tablet. So yeah, I mean, this is still answering. My answers are really long. You can tell I teach at university now again.
I'm such a sponge right now. I'm just like a little kid. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network. Soon to be March 9th, KGRA. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We are talking with Buff Parry. Buff, by the way, it was Archimedes.
Oh, right. Oh, gee.
Archimedes out of and he split Syracuse and anyway, I'll send you those details.
Archimedes, he's the one with the Archimedean screw, right? The way of delivering water up in a.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
Archimedes, there's your Antikythera mechanism author.
No, but that's fine. I don't have any problems with that. I never thought it was older than 22 centuries.
Right,
old.
right.
So I never attributed it to Atlantis, to begin with. It's just. It's an anomaly in the sense that it stands alone.
Oh, it's incredible. There's no doubt about the gearing and what it did and so forth. I mean, watches in Switzerland didn't happen for a long time after that. So you have to look at it like that. But I would love for it to be a gift from E.T. or I want something more romantic behind it. But the Antikythera mechanism came out of Syracuse. And so there you go. What was? There was something that you wrote me that I wanted to address, and that was Robert Bivall, John Anthony West, and Hancock asked you to become the fourth Mouseketeer.
Yeah.
Right.
That's only if Annette Funicello was going to be the fifth.
Can you tell me about that? These are these guys I all respect, and no, I haven't had Baval on the show yet, but Hancock's been on a couple of times. John Anthony West has been on a couple of times, and I consider them good close friends. So what happened with the?
Okay, I'll tell you. I will tell you that, but if I may take the opportunity to say happy birthday to my oldest niece, the niece that I kind of also grew up with. It's her birthday today. So
what's her name?
Her name is Kimberly Tornincasa.
Oh, well, Kimberly, happy birthday! And if you want me to sing, I will.
No, I don't. She may never talk to me again. I don't know how you sing there.
Oh no, you don't want to know. You don't want to know. No.
Here's what happened. I've done a lot of work in Egypt. We were approved by the Egyptian government and Zahi Hawass to run some experiments in Cheops with America's greatest geologists. And we did that, and so I kind of was party to some major research accomplishments that still are not very well known, but they will be concerning the nature of the cutting of the sandstone, limestone, granite slabs, all of that. And so I became acquainted with especially John Anthony West, but also Baval and Hancock. And in that process, our patron, a very, very wealthy man in Tampa, Florida, who was bringing together what was needed to run these experiments. He introduced me to Baval. West and Hancock. I had this breakthrough in terms of early proto-dynastic Egyptian, the language itself, and how it related to things that would have been going on around Gobekli Tepe and further to the east, in Mitanni and places like that, much more recently, and how it is that certain terms come about and then proliferate, rather than understanding that process by glottochronology. I came up with a theory about how words spread from one colony or colonizing force to another, and one civilization, one culture to another. And I used early Egyptian, proto-dynastic Egyptian to do it with. And so it was, to especially John Anthony West, it was an astounding breakthrough. The method that I used, where I gained my material from. And he asked me if he could bring the whole thing to Egypt and deliver it to Zahi Hawass. And I've got all these emails, pardon me, not emails, but letters. Nobody was doing emails in those days. I wish that I had recorded the phone calls, actually, because it was such an amazing development. And I said, well, I don't know that you're competent enough to be able to articulate this theory. I came up with it. Bring me with you. And this was all three of them going off to have a meeting with Zahi Hawass, from each their own source of departure, and they weren't all in Egypt when this all came about. So I said, well, I'm not gonna give you what I've done to bring on my behalf to Zahi Hawass, even if you've accepted it, because I'm afraid that in presenting it, things will be missed. I came up with the theory.
Right.
And it seemed to me my right, and maybe it's selfish, but only my right to, as long as I'm alive, to be the person who brings out the explanation of this theory in all of its details.
Well, yeah, because quite frankly, I'll defend you on this. Your version is firsthand, and when somebody else is going to get involved and try to explain it away and give it's not now. It's second and third person. It's on down the line. We've all played the telephone game, right? When you speak into somebody's ear, and then it goes around 8 people later, and
it's a totally different account.
Yes. So no, it has to be you. Okay, so you're defending that right. So what happened
and
next?
This is no reflection. I'm not suggesting anything devious about Boval and
not at all.
No. But just that they didn't have a right to run off with something that took me time and maybe a little touch of genius here or there and certainly a lot of work to pull together and then to combat all the linguists who are so dependent on glottochronology as the tool to measure the age of languages with. My most important word that I use as an example in all of this was the word that is the base word in Osiris, Asar, or Zar. And it means power. In ancient Egyptian, it meant power, and it continued to mean power in common parlance. In the normal street language of Egyptians. Osiris came out of a linguistic substrate that was just common talk in terms of the word.
Sure. And I'm going to have to take your word for it, by the way.
Yeah. but now consider all of these other terms like Tsar, Kaiser, Caesar. What was Sarah? What was her original name? And then in the Bible, it's changed to Sarai.
Right.
It was Sarah, which means princess in Hebrew, and I mean, this goes on endlessly. Azar, as in Azerbaijan, Azar, which is a Proto-Persian term that all of them mean power.
And all of this is phonetically speaking. Phonetically, it's not. It doesn't have anything to do with written.
Well, it gets recorded.
Well, I mean, you're not using identical letters from different languages. What I mean by that is letters that represent the same letters. No, we're talking about phonetically because that's how it would cross civilizations. It would cross civilizations and cultures phonetically. It wouldn't have done it.
No, exactly. Very well put. You should co-lecture with me and.
I'm right with you. We could have the doofus and the smart guy.
That almost sounds like my middle name, but we don't want to get into all of that. But yeah, really quickly, I don't know if we're beginning to run out of time or not. But
we sort of. But real quick, so then, how did you break Boval, West, and Hancock's heart?
By not giving them any documents and asking them to please not talk about this. That if I can't present it, nobody should be presenting it as long as I'm alive, or students who are well taught, from me. People who just learned it shouldn't be running around trying to teach it. It's way too, involved and complicated. I didn't want it to be complicated, and I can give a simplified version of it, but
sure.
But I just didn't want, I didn't want them taking it, and I didn't understand if they had enough money to be able to pull together for their trips to Cairo, and they want to take, a huge achievement of mine. Well, just take me.
Right. Well, is it too late to get the boys' club together?
No, it's not.
Okay.
And I hope they're listening. It's John Anthony West is the person. The other two know about it, but John Anthony West was the person who I was communicating with and who had phoned me a couple times, and letters were written. And Marshall Payne is the person who was the benefactor during that time period, and he's the one that
Florida.
It.
Right. Well, John is in Egypt. He's on his way back now, and so as soon as he gets back, we're going to have him on the show in a week or two, and I'll speak with him then. Not that big of a deal.
So cool. I please let me know, or somehow I'll find out, because I'd love to. I don't want to phone in because
no, that's it. No. But that's an easy thing to do. Okay, so you were about to say, are we running out of time?
I want to plug my YouTube channel. I want to plug my YouTube channel.
Oh, what's it called? Total Buff in the Buff. What was the name of it?
Totally Buff in the Buff.
Yeah, Totally Buff. No, it's Truth in the Buff, right?
That's right.
I love it. Yeah, Truth in the Buff. You go and spend some time there, everybody. Well, that link is probably. I'm looking at Twitter now. It's already flooding in. Yeah, Truth in the Buff, and I want everybody. It's not. I know that you had said to me that you had issues on the creative side of Lapis Axilis, but I got to tell you, I've watched that thing 10 times. I'll watch it 10 times more. Every time I watch it, I leave with a couple of things. Number one, I just don't understand why this isn't, if not made into a movie, but this should be a front room discussion for everybody, the content of the documentary. The issue that I have with it, if you could ever change anything, turn the music down. No, I'm serious. Because there's some spots in there where you are crossing some points, and I have to go and I have to listen a little bit and go back. But that's it. The way that it's laid out from beginning to end, and the way that you deal with things overseas and then bring it over here to New York, and the way that you connect all of the dots. I got to tell you, I think it's one of the best documentaries out there. The only thing, if I have a complaint, and that's a minor one, I think the music plays over you when you're speaking in more than a couple of spots. Other than that, I think it's excellent.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you very much. Like I said, I was discovered giving a presentation in Los Angeles at the Philosophical Research Society Auditorium, and these documentarians came in, and as a result, documentaries were produced, and this was one of them. And this one, had a brigade of Freemasons all rallied together to make sure that everybody had their stamp on it, and so the person who wrote the music, is a known Masonic composer, and the animator, the same holds true, and then we know the other main party to it. But yeah, I don't mean to be overly critical. There's some aspects to the way things happened and what's happening now because of that documentary that are unsatisfactory. That's all I can say, and I don't want to get into details.
Can I spin a couple of Twitter questions that I've been ignoring all night, our audience?
Okay.
Let's just bang these out really quick. We don't have to go deep. Who do you think, this is from Yvonne, who do you think built the pyramids in Egypt?
Who built the pyramids in Egypt?
Yep.
Do I think that, are you asking directly the question, do I think that there were aliens involved?
Well, hey, that's up to you, but do you think the Egyptians built the pyramids? My take is I think they were already there. When the Upper and Lower Egypt came together and that stuff was completed, those pyramids had already been there for a few thousand years. That's my take. They were already there.
All I can say is that I think it's too early for me to draw a conclusion that's fundamental, based on facts that have emerged in studying the origins of the pyramids. I'm not settled on who did it. I think that they certainly could have been done by means possible even 5,000 years ago, except for the granite facing slabs and how those were sliced off of the big, huge granite blocks. And I've seen that, and I know that there was technology that certainly we don't even have today. So I'll go that far to say that there was technology used then that we don't have today.
Absolutely.
That can slice granite the way that they were able to slice granite. And you know, where that conclusion leads is in about 10 different, you know, possible directions.
Sure does. Yeah.
So I'm a baby in the woods on this one. I'm not settled at all on any single explanation. But having done work in Cheops, having been allowed to test, you know, the material in the sedimentary stone, I'm certainly able to eliminate some theories, like the blocks were poured in place, that sort of thing, which they weren't.
It's an interesting theory. I'll tell you this: if I'm Cheops, I put my name on that thing, you know, in big bold letters, all over it, and that's my take. I just think that they were there long before Upper and Lower came together. This question comes in from Dan. He says, can you ask Buff about his literature and sources? He says, I'm interested in the linguistic relationship and sites.
Wow. Did you hear that noise?
No.
You said, I'm interested in the, and then there was this exhaust sound, and then you said linguistics and sites.
Wow. Nope.
So I don't know what that is, what else you were saying there.
That's the NSA coming into play here. He says, ask Buff about his literature and sources. I'm interested in the linguistic relationship and sites. There
are hundreds of them. I wish that he had asked a more specific question, like how do I reconstruct ancient Egyptian? Is that what he's wondering about? Where does the linguistic material come from? Or
yeah, I think that's what he's pointing at. Do you have anything on your site that would help him? References?
There's a little bit, not really. There are publications. Aesop has published me. My linguistics up with Leonardo is really well published. There's a book that came out in 2009, 2010. It's called Leonardo da Vinci, The Angel in the Flesh and Salai. And that's that 416-page work by Carlo Pedretti. I helped him pull it together, and he asked me to write an essay for it, and that's where I have Leonardo's ciphers decoded in that particular publication. But he's asking, outside of my own work, whose work did I draw from, I think is maybe the core of the question.
There's so much here. What was, where in Ohio was that cuneiform tablet found?
You know, and that I haven't gotten into yet, so I'm going to plead total ignorance on that. I'm waiting concerning that tablet and the second cuneiform tablet in Georgia. The ones I have expertise on are the lead tablet, the especially Chief Joseph's, and the ironstone Dillman tablet in Oklahoma. The other two, it's exhausting to go through it the way I do my work. So I'm holding off on those two. The Ohio example, but it can be found again. Aesop, Epigraphic Society Occasional Papers. They have an index system, and you just have to Google your way into all of it.
Sure.
So that would be the way to, you know, I guess the terms to do the search with would be Ohio cuneiform inscribed tablet.
Okay.
And there will be plenty of information on it. And the same thing with Georgia. There's one in Georgia, the lead tablet, that I can actually tell you where it is. It's owned by LaGrange College. And I'm in communication with the president of LaGrange College to get, to be able to take it on tour. And then once the momentum is built, and I have two of the artifacts, I know I'll be able to have four, and then I can go down to Bolivia and to Peru, where there's this other set of cuneiform inscribed artifacts, also vetted, that have a blending of indigenous motifs with the cuneiform. And that's interesting. To me, that's extremely interesting. It means that whoever was writing in cuneiform and lived amongst the indigenous peoples in Bolivia and Peru integrated.
Yeah, when you see that one bowl from Bolivia right there with it's rather obvious. I don't read cuneiform, so I can't, but I can. My eyes tell me that that's exactly what is on that bowl. And then you have all the bearded guys and the descriptions of all of that, which wasn't indigenous down there. Here's a question from Jeffrey. He says, "Are we going to find out that the Vatican is withholding information on Gobekli Tepe?" I think that's a great question.
I'm one who has been in the Vatican vaults. Okay, I hate to shatter anybody's conspiracy theory about all of this, but I've been in those vaults. I may not have been in some of the considered to be top secret vaults, but I've been in the Vatican vaults. I did a lot of studying there. I was on a contract that brought me there. And it also brought me to the Jesuit interests that are attached to the Vatican, but they won't allow Jesuit archives in the Vatican archives, which is a long story in itself. That's a separate show, actually.
Right.
I guess the question is implying that somehow the Vatican knows more about, or is it a humorous question? Is it a serious question?
I think it's 100% serious question. And
okay, how would the Vatican know unless they had their own teams of archaeologists? And I'm not making fun of the question, okay? I mean, it's a good question. It's a serious question.
Yes,
I get it.
Yes.
I find humor in the question because everything, goes back to the Vatican.
It does. It all does. And then, if you have a Da Vinci connection here, I find that very, very, very direct. I just have to say that there's more things there. There's more things there forgotten about than are remembered. Okay, and it just goes deep and deep and deep, and it's just stuff that they know that they don't want the rest of us to know for a variety of different reasons. But Catholicism comes to mind, and
yeah,
so. Could they have knowledge of lost civilizations? Sure. Absolutely. They've been accumulating everything there forever. So could they know? Yeah. Could they? I guess the humorous part of it is we want to hear you say, of course they probably know something.
Because I know one of the archaeologists who's done, a lot at Gobekli Tepe, I'm pretty sure that the Vatican didn't have covert spy archaeologists with the German teams that did the initial discoveries. Schmidt, or is his name Schmidt? I think it's Schmidt.
Yes, yeah, he just passed away.
Yeah. I think they've been pretty forthcoming with everything that they've found there. And what would it be if they've let this much out? Then what would have been concealed?
Or the knowledge of, the other way to look at it is the knowledge of, 2,000 years ago that Gobekli Tepe existed, or that, certain civilizations came, from there, and based on, just like you were just saying with the Pillow of Destiny, the Stone of Destiny, is there a connection, and would they be holding that back?
I get it. I see where the question can go. Let's take the name of Orion when it was Anu, the Good Shepherd Anu, and the Good Shepherd Anu, as depicted in ancient Sumer and Babylon and Akkad and so on, was not a hunter but a shepherd with a lamb around his neck, and this rooster, right? So when you go to Rome, you go to the catacombs of San Callisto, you're going to see frescoes of that image. They identified the shepherd as Jesus. from a Vatican perspective. But it came from Sumer.
Wow. That is a whole nother show. That's a whole nother show. That's a whole. That's a whole.
Wait till I tell you the secret about St. Augustine's baptism in Milan. I mean, I'll save it for the show, for part 2. All right, because there's a whole lot more we didn't cover that like what it is about Gobekli Tepe that makes it an arcanum in stone. That codified all of what became zodiacs and astrological symbols millennia later. And how did that get distributed? How was that knowledge recovered and then submerged and then recovered again and then submerged? There's that whole dimension we didn't get into, but I think it'd be fun to save it for.
Yeah, we should. And I'll say this before I let you go. When I see something as obvious as a scorpion on a pillar there, when they're relating to what appears to me to be astrological representations, and the scorpion is there. I don't know if scorpions are indigenous to Turkey. I don't know that. But I do know that scorpions are in every zodiac on planet Earth. Mm-hmm. And now we're talking 12,000 years ago. Somebody please help me with that. Just explain that. Just explain that. Or is that the origins of everything? Thank you so much, Buff. I had a great time tonight.
Well, I did too, Jimmy. And I hope we have another round of this.
Yeah,
I feel like we haven't quite completed it all.
No. And that is the beauty of doing this show. It is just, I just had a wonderful time. Thank you so much. And where can everybody find you? What's your website?
www.lewisbuffperry.com.
There you go. And the links are on jimmychurchradio.com. Just go click on Buff's name. It'll take you right there. And again, Truth in the Buff is his YouTube channel.
They'll keep up much more by not going to my site and going to the channel.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Truth in the Buff as soon as I'm done here.
First 3 episodes, and that's all that's posted so far because we just put it up, are all about Oak Island.
Yeah, we have them all up. They've all been tweeted and retweeted all night tonight, just so you know, 1, 2, and 3. Thank you, Buff. You have a good time. And listen, also, this UFO crash up in Winnipeg. Have you heard about this thing?
Did it just happen?
Yeah, last week. And a retrieval. That's your homework for tomorrow, next time you come on the show.
Okay. I'll look into it.
Buff Parry, everybody. Thank you so much, Buff. Have a great night. Be safe.
You too, Jimmy. Good night.
Good night. Buff Parry, everybody. I told you that this is why you listen to Fade to Black. That was an absolutely amazing evening. Thank you so much, Buff. And with that, man, we got to get out of here. We ran over. Thank you, Buff. Oh, so much to discuss with Buff. You do need to go, and if you haven't already, go look up Lapis Exilis. Lapis Exilis, the Stone of Destiny. One of the best documentaries you're ever going to see. Thank you, Buff Parry. I am Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network, starting March 9th, KGRA. Thank you, Buff Parry. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Show's produced by Hilton J. Palm and Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, and Jonas. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Method of Signaling. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro by Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Go and get you some. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, right here, Linda Moulton Howe. I want everybody to be safe. See ya.